let's just jump in, and people will jump in. They won't hear all the stories, but sort of we'll just start with why you're here, each of the participants, and what sort of what's calling you to Scotland. So do you want to start, Pamela?
I'm definitely called, and it doesn't make any sense. What else? I'm trying to just honor the call. I've been interested at least 6 years in Mary Magdalene and the calling, and I've got a lot of books. I haven't read most of them. Let's see what else. And there appears to be something sort of unique about this offering, so I thought I should treat it with respect and honor and see how far I can go with it.
Thank you. Okay, and Susan.
Yeah, I've been interested in Mary Magdalene since 2012, and I've done book studies with Ariana and Trisha and Laura. And Laura, I love her. I love how she speaks about Scotland and about the energies there of Mary Magdalene and Yeshua. And so I'm very passionate about what can unfold when you put your attention somewhere.
Thank you. And Trisha, what about you?
I am so drawn to sacred pilgrimages, and this one in Scotland is just so appealing, in part because of the last book we've been reading in the club about, that had references to the Druid schools and their role in preserving a lot of the ancient knowledge and the interconnections with the Mary Magdalene work. And so it's just fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. Okay, so my own journey, we'll do both the leaders. My own journey has been, actually, I'm going to ask June to share first, because she kind of is sitting beside me here, so I'm just moving the computer over a bit. There we go. So, yeah, June, go ahead, and then I'll come after you, and then Laura.
For me, I can't explain it like any of you. It just comes up from inside my soul. I can't explain it like Ariana can. It just, the depth of the Mary Magdalene is so deeply ingrained in the feminine being, so far back and so deep within who we are, that's what I follow. I don't even read like she does. She reads so much. I have a knowing, and that's all I can say. I just have a knowing that this is the path that all the planet needs to take right now. And we need to uncover these sacred teachings and mysteries.
Thank you. So for those that don't know, June is my partner on the Mary Magdalene pilgrimages. And so I've been on the Mary Magdalene train for actually since 2005. It's an Anna, grandmother of Jesus, and then June is the instigator of the Mary Magdalene pilgrimages. That's another story. We don't need to go there right now. But so as I'm going through the book study from today, it's talking about balance. And I think that's where we are in the place of humanity is we're coming forward the balance of the masculine and feminine. And that in the longer journey towards the evolution of humanity is really what we're aiming for, the connection with the divine feminine, divine masculine, coming together with all of us living in harmony and cooperation. Sometimes feels like it's a pipe dream. That can that ever happen? Especially now when things are intensifying so deeply that there's this push to have people against each other instead of in balance and harmony. So for me, I met Laura on one of the book studies, and we had a great connection. Susan met Laura as well, so she was on one of those. And often book studies are an opportunity to bring us together. I think, Pamela, similar to what June's saying, there's just a knowing. There's a sort of an internal feeling that this is something I want to look at, something I want to hold the energy of, or there's a calling. It makes no sense. When I first started doing Mary Magdalene, it was like, you want me to do what? It's kind of like, that's what you want me to do? Okay, well, let's see about that. But it turns out that it was one of the best decisions I made. So during that book study, I met Laura, and somehow there was this resonance, and she was talking about Scotland, and not a place that I had considered doing pilgrimage. But I was in Glastonbury last fall for about 3 weeks, and so obviously things were being planted at that point. So when I asked Laura if she'd be willing to collaborate on doing a pilgrimage in Scotland, I just was listening to Spirit. It just came out of my mouth. I didn't have a plan to do that. It's like all of a sudden, it's like, okay, what if? And so I think that's part of the listening to that little nudgy noise. And Laura said, like, you don't know who I am. I'm like, I know who you are energetically. We found out more about that during the planning processes where, as you know, as you get into partnership with somebody, whether you're married or not, all of a sudden there's opportunities to deepen that connection. So I'm going to pass it over to Laura from here.
Thank you, Ariana. We call what you have been describing here the witchy way. That's the witchy way. When there's a knowing, but you don't know why. That is like a witchy way of knowing things, you know. And as for my I think all of you here, except for June maybe, know that I'm from Argentina. And that, so what is an Argentinian woman doing, hosting tours of Scotland? I mean, it doesn't make much sense, but I've always been drawn since I was a kid to everything Celtic, the culture, the stories, the language, and I became a literature teacher. I specialized in the medieval period. Why would a girl of 18 study medieval English literature in Argentina? You know, these things. And then I met my husband, who's Scottish, and we got married, and he came over to Argentina, and we lived there for many, many years. But we would come back to visit the family. You know, so I would come back almost every year, and the more I came, the more I understood my relationship with magic and enchantment and mystery, and how I was called to that. But to me, it was always the magic and the mystery. And I've always had this ability, I don't know what to call it, to cross over the thresholds very easily. I can very easily go into the other world, and I can very easily perceive and see that which cannot be seen with your eyes. You know, I can feel that, and then I trained as a healer, and then I trained as a eco art therapist, which involves the development of that possibility of sentient perception. So I would develop that even more. But it was always the magic and the mystery, and I wrote books about magic and mystery, and I wrote books about heart coherence, and I always secretly dreamt of coming to live here in Scotland. But that was a dream that was impossible. You know, it was impossible. And here I am, living in Scotland, you know, making the impossible come true. And when I arrived here, I started hearing about this Emerald Heart. And I didn't know what the Emerald Heart was, but I knew I had to know more about it. So I started researching, and I realized that I wasn't going to find the answers in a book. But I mean, nobody could answer the questions I was making. So I realized I would have to somehow, you know, find it by myself. And once you have an intention, then you start meeting the right people. And then you start kind of finding out. And I became more and more, knowledgeable of this Emerald Heart. And I had people in Buenos Aires, my mentor in Buenos Aires, told me a couple of things about Mary Magdalene and me. And I said, oh, okay, but I'm not into that. I'm into the magic and the mystery and the Celts. What does Mary Magdalene have to do with that? I'm into the Druids and the priestesses and, nothing to do. Fine. I come here and I meet a group of white witches, very powerful white witches. And one of them comes and tells me something about me and Mary Magdalene. And I said, oh, that's fine, okay. No, it has nothing to do with me. I'm into the Druids. I'm into something different. And I wouldn't pay attention. And I was into the Emerald Heart. And then somebody else draws a evolutionary chart, astrological chart for me, and tells me something about Mary Magdalene. And I said, okay, 3 times lucky, okay. So, if you're looking for me, here I am. If you're calling me, here I am. And I started doing tours of Scotland, always following the Emerald Heart. It was to awaken the Emerald Heart with Spanish-speaking people. And it was along the tour that this presence starting, she appeared in my heart with such strength that I just could not be there for it. And then I understood that behind the magic, behind the Emerald Heart, the call that I had always felt came from her. So I'm the kind of person that when I understand something, when I touch what I call a point of truth, then I'm all in it. All in it, heart, soul, body, all of it. And I don't keep anything. So that's what I did. If this is the path, I'm going 101% in it. And I started trying to get closer to her, but not through the books. I didn't want to get through her from what other people had said about her. I wanted my own experience. So I got into different ways. One was I joined a group of metaphors, you call it in English, the ones that use oils. And we did a whole experience through olfactory perception of mirror and sacred oils, and that awakens a remembrance. And then I did an iconography process where I painted Mary Magdalene, and it's a revelation of her. So she started coming, revealing aspects of her. And she asked me, bring the people to the land. She said, bring the people to the land. Because there's a truth in this land. There is a truth in these lands that has been preserved, that is unspoiled. So I said, okay. And I don't know how I'm going to bring the people to the land, because nobody knows me in these lands. I was known in Buenos Aires, but not here. And then comes Ariana all of a sudden and asks me if I want to do this. And I said, okay, let's bring the people to the land. And let's make them feel that presence through the awakening of the Emerald Heart. Let's make them remember, because this is what it's all about. It's a remembrance of something. That, what you cannot explain, that call that you cannot explain, is a remembrance. It's something we remember. It's not something we don't know. We cannot explain it, but it's there because we can remember it. And that is what brings us here. And there's so much in the land. and there's so much in the legends, and there's so much there, you know. And so, and when I decided I was all in it, I realized that I had to become a priestess. That was my true calling. So I did my priestess training to become a Celtic Rose priestess. And then I understood why I came here. Then I understood what I'm doing. So as a priestess, my role is to serve as a conduit, to allow you or anybody who's near me to receive the same that I am receiving, to open up those channels, to hold the space sacred so that this can happen. And so I take it very seriously. I'm very committed to my path. And you, Pamela, talked about treating it with respect and with honor. And I'm so pleased that you would say that, because that is how I would like the whole thing to be understood and to be treated, you know, with that level of sacredness and respect, because this is a sacred pilgrimage. So that's it.
Thank you. So we'll start opening to questions. Pamela, do you have a specific question? I'm assuming you've read the itinerary.
I looked at the itinerary, but I know so little, I didn't really catch anything. I mean, you know, I know so little, Ariana. I don't even know the significance of going to any of the sites. Yeah. So I would go to okay, could you tell me briefly that it seemed very high significance to go to Rosslyn Chapel, for example. So we can speak to that at a higher level, like the overall energy of Rosslyn. I think Laura can tune into that without giving away, because we have our final private ceremony there. You must have wondered, well, why is there a private ceremony in Rosslyn? And I'm getting goosebumps as we're talking about it, because it's it's so sacred. So Rosslyn, can you summarize, Laura, without giving too much?
Rosslyn is an enigma, just as the Celtic Rose is an enigma. You cannot completely decipher it, and I don't think you're supposed to completely decipher it. But what we do know is that it is a temple of ascension. It is a temple of ascension for many reasons, because of where it stands, because of the sacredness of the ground and of Roslyn Glen, which is extremely pure in the energy, So this temple that was constructed following the sacred geometry and the golden ratio, that has so many things in it. There's so much that can be said about Rosslyn that makes it so, so very special. But even if I didn't say anything, you go in and you feel it. I mean, there's no way you couldn't feel it. But then if you know a couple of things, you know, there's a pilgrimage for initiates that started in Santiago de Compostela, going through 7 Templar cathedrals and ending in Rosslyn. And Rosslyn is the crown chakra. Rosslyn is the crown, the end. The scarlet shells were taken from Santiago to Rosslyn and deposited in Rosslyn. So it is, many people go to Santiago as the destination. Santiago is the start, and Rosslyn is the next level. So it is a temple where energy is attuned, you know, where there's a hum of the bees, and the honey understood as the alchemical honey, which is a substance that's in the air and you can breathe it. And that really, really nourishes the rose in the heart. So we are very fortunate that we can have a private final ceremony within the chapel, the most energetic point in the chapel. And we're going to be sitting in circle there and aligning and doing a couple of other things that we will be doing there.
Got to work up the appetite. We can't give you all the goodies at the same time. Susan, do you have a question about Rosalind, or do you have a question about somewhere else on the journey?
I was thinking, Rosalind, too, that what the significance is there. Yeah. So I think. Go ahead. In the Emerald Heart, can you elaborate more on the Emerald Heart?
The Emerald Heart is a blueprint. It's an energetic blueprint of the highest form of unconditional love, which is compassion. It is a gift from the mother. It is a gift from the mother. After the fall, so that we wouldn't perish, because otherwise we would have perished without it. And this template, this blueprint is encoded in these lands and in the light body of ancient Albion, which is the name of the British Isles. So it was encoded here. And we have this remembrance inside of us. That's why we resonate. I say Emerald Heart and we tingle, and we don't know why. It's because this remembrance of this possibility is inside of us. And I discovered that this Emerald Heart is in all the elements of Albion. It's in the air, it's in the water, it's in the fire, it's in the land itself, and it is in the spirit. So walking the land really reactivates this remembrance. And it is crucial for me, because without this, you may awaken to the rose, but it is not the Celtic rose. The Celtic rose is deeply associated with the fae, with the elementals, with that subtle realm which the priestesses knew about. And the Marys were all priestesses, and they all knew about these things. The priestesses, the Marys, they all come. They are of the lineage of the rose, but they're of the lineage of Avalon. They're of the lineage of Avalon. So no wonder when walking the land, I started remembering all of this, And so that is the Emerald Heart, among other things.
Is Albion, just for anybody that doesn't know Albion, what is the reference to Albion?
Albion is the ancestral name of the British Isles.
Thank you.
And it means white light.
So how about Tricia? Don't want to put you too much on the spot, but do you have any question about some of the places we're visiting?
Since I was able to join the previous call, and there is some talk about Iona. I am still so fascinated by Iona, or drawn especially by Iona for some reason, and so anything more about Iona would be just wonderful.
It's not for some reason. Iona is one of the most mystical places on the planet. There's a saying that says, of all the rocks on the planet, the rocks in Iona are the most sacred. And Iona is Iona is an Avalon, because Avalon is a quality of the land. It's not a geographical place. And many say that either Iona is an emanation of Shambhala, or Iona is the true Shambhala, and Shambhala is an emanation of Iona. We don't know which started first, but they're of the same quality. They're of the same energetic quality. And Iona, I think I said the last time that Iona didn't fall. Iona is this place on earth that didn't fall, where the land is still singing with creation. You know, it is said that if you make the correct silence, you can hear Iona singing with creation. You know, in complete harmony. There's no dissonance because it never fell. So, and then it is said that it was visited by Jesus, by Mary Magdalene, some say the mother, and there is a well called the Well of Youth, or Bridget's Well, up on Dundee, and where Jesus and Mary drank from, the purest waters on the planet, some people say. And this Iona was then, St. Columba was there in the 600s. No, this is a lot later. And there's a hill called the Angels' Hill where the monks say they saw Iona, Columba speaking with the angels. The angels, there's the atmosphere, the field is so pure in Iona that angels can come down very easily. So Iona is truly, it's out of this world. It is out of this world. Worth visiting, worth visiting. Even if it's not on the tour, I highly recommend that you don't depart this world without visiting Iona.
Perfect. Right beside Iona, for those that have seen the picture of the stained glass window with Mary Magdalene, a pregnant Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, right across the sea a little bit is Dervet. Is that what you say, Dervet? Island of Mull. And so we will be visiting there as well for people that have would like to feel into that energy of the two and be in the church where that beautiful stained glass is. So I think that the two energetically are very connected. Like there's not a surprise that there ends up being a church there close to
Tobermory, which is the capital, if you want. It's not a capital, but the main town in Mull, which is very close to Derveig, means the well of Mary. Mary's well means Tobermory. What is Mary's well doing on such a remote island? As remote. These places are remote. What does Mary's well have to do here?
A mystery to be discovered.
There's so many. This is the land of mystery and magic, that's for sure.
So, just as a general thought, the overview of the pilgrimage is more, not so much cathedrals that you would go to in France, but more connecting to the land, the energies of the land, and we'll have multiple ceremonies connecting to the forest and the fae and the different magic that's in Scotland. One of the places that we are going to go is to the Callanish Stones, and do you want to speak a little bit to that in connection maybe to the stone circles generally, but not in detail?
All the stone circles all over the world, because there are stone circles all over the world, they're really, I call them magical rings. They are magical rings. There's magic inside a stone circle. The stones, for the Celts, the stones were alive. They call them the stone people. and they had, their own spirits, and they held the memories. So it is very interesting to have a conversation with the stones, and to be, and yes, it's amazing. It's amazing. And but apart from that, because of the quality of the stones, and because of the arrangements, and because of the telluric energies, where these places were not just places. Callanish is built. You have to go to the north of Scotland, and Scotland is far away, and then you have to take a ferry 3 hours, and then you have to go to the other side of the island to get to the Callanish stones. It is really remote, and you wonder, why would they build this here? And many other stone circles are, you go to the one in Orkney, it's the same, they're in the middle of nowhere. So, but they're not just because, they're there for a reason. The ley lines there, the energy there is, and the telluric energies, and also the water underneath, because it has to do with the water underneath. So there's not just because. So to have the possibility of doing a healing ceremony, to really allow the energy of the stones to heal us, to calibrate, is really, is very powerful, very powerful. We've had some interesting things happening inside stone circles. Interesting things happening. Yeah.
Interesting, to say the least. I was, when I was in Glastonbury in September last year, it was in, I think a lot of people, myself included, have the Stonehenge as the mecca of stone circles. Yeah, in Avalon, the energy, the circles in Avalon, my feeling are very different energetically, but very much very powerful in their own way. So it's kind of interesting to witness and feel the energies differently in each of these sacred spots. I think that for me, what's interesting, when I went to Avebury, I was thinking about my mother, because she was actually born in Avebury, Saskatchewan. And so all of a sudden, it's like, here's my mother, who never had really, when we talk about our ancestral lines, I never had a chance to talk to her about how her connection to, why she chose Avebury as a place to be born, interestingly enough, because I find that, how did I choose to come to this little town of Saskatchewan, surrounded by Indian communities? But I feel like she knew, like as I've been sitting with this whole Scotland thing, and she had, her name was Evelyn, and Avebury and the Lynn, and so Lynn, somehow she felt connected to Merlin, so she's brought me into that realm. She named me Linda Merle, which is kind of like a combination of the female Merlin, and she named my sister Merla Lynn. So Merlin is high on my resonance scale of, for those of you who don't know, I changed my name from Linda Merle to Ariana Rose almost 20 years ago. So, but it's interesting how, Pamela, when you're talking about the call and the sense of something, when I decided to go to Glastonbury, I didn't know it was kind of leading me to Scotland the next year. Like it was like, it was kind of like, okay, you think you've done this, now you're going to move deeper into the land of Albion. In terms of other pilgrimages, this isn't really, we do go to a couple castles and cathedrals, but it's not the main focus. But we will be tuning into energy in cathedrals in Edinburgh and cathedrals in Glasgow
Cathedral.
Yeah. So the difference between the Mary Magdalene in France is there's not, for physical fitness, there's a big difference, because in this tour it's more flat. We're on boats, and instead of being in buses all the time, we're on boats going to these islands. And but there's only one place that's actually physically requiring some level of, that's a physical fitness, I'll say, and it's not a huge distance. Can you speak a little bit to the climb on Iona?
There's the one. I mean, I hope we can make it up to the Denis, the pool of the Bridget's pool on Iona. It is rugged and it's not flat, but I don't think it's something that can be done. It's half an hour. It's not a lot. And the climb to Arthur's Seat, again, it's we're doing the short, because you could do it in 2 hours and go no, this is a short climb. It's only half an hour to get to Arthur's Seat. I mean, it's not flat, but it's not something that cannot be done. Those are the only 2 climbs that we have. And this being Scotland, you have to think that it might be muddy, if you don't know what the weather's going to be like. So that is something else that you learn here about the mother and the Cailleach. And the Cailleach is the mother here, and she's an old lady. She's a crone, and she's powerful. And you have to do as she says. And if it's rain, it's rain. And if it's cold, it's cold. And if you can't do it, you can't do it. You learn to be obedient here because she has the last word. So in that respect, Scotland is tough in a way. Scotland is raw. Scotland is pure. Scotland will not allow you to bring any masks. The wind will take them away. It will take them away. And it will confront you with who you are, not who you believe you are, but who you really are. So in that respect, it is so pure that, of course, you have to go to a level of depth, because on the surface, you don't see that. You don't see that. In fact, you can get distracted by the people and what they do. But if you go a little bit, if you don't get distracted by that and you connect with the land, you get to that rawness. I say it's raw. It's very true. It's very true. And there's an innocence in the land, a purity in the land that I hope stays like that for a long time. I hope so.
Thank you. Can you speak a little bit to, for those that don't know, Arthur's Seat is in Edinburgh. It's our first journey morning.
Yeah, Arthur's Seat is, it's called Arthur's Seat. It's in Edinburgh. It's it's an extinct volcano. There are many volcanoes. It's quite volcanic, the land, and so this is on top of a volcano. And you have a great view of Edinburgh from the top. And it is called Arthur's Seat in remembrance of Arthur, the national hero, the saviour, the Christ-like figure of the British Isles. And of course, the Welsh will say Arthur is Welsh. In Cornwall, they say he's Cornish, and in Scotland, they say Arthur is Scottish, We get the same from Ireland, But to me, starting the pilgrimage with this climb already gives you a different perspective. You have to climb, you have to go to, so that you see things from a different perspective. And up there, there's a ceremony, and the one I bring in is Arthur's ancestor, and that is Joseph of Arimathea. Arthur is a descendant from Joseph of Arimathea. And Joseph is the paranymphos. Joseph is the one that had to protect the Holy Family, and he did. And I have a good friend of mine who has researched a lot on Joseph, and he's writing a book, and I know that book is going to end up being a movie. It's going to end up being a movie because Joseph is such an interesting character, and nobody says anything about him. But he is crucial in everything that happened later. So he was an archdruid. And he was many things. And so, it's when you know the story of Joseph, you understand why the Holy Family came here, why he would have brought them here. and not. And then then they went to France. Then some of them went to France, but they came here. And Joseph knew what he was doing. So it is important to understand who he was to understand the why. So I want to honor Joseph because to me he's crucial and he is forgotten. I mean, he's as a way of bringing in this divine masculine energy, because he is the embodiment of truly aligned divine masculine energy that protects the feminine, that protects the family, that guides, but he was righteous. He was righteous, and he was so many things. He was such a powerful, powerful man. He had a fleet which was on a par with the Phoenician fleets. He was on a par with the Phoenicians. He was feared by the Romans. He was a nobilis decuria. He had a title in Rome which was above the senators. He had direct access to the emperor. And he was extremely wealthy. So he was a truly, truly powerful, powerful person. So it's important to understand that. And I think we cannot talk about the British Isles if we don't talk about Joseph, because he brought them here for a reason.
So sort of flipping back to a couple places we're staying, Portugal, we are going to visit where they had the final gathering of the clan before the dispersion of the Yeshua's family line. So we are going to Portugal, and there's definitely you energy there, and it's again amplifies a lot of ancestral things, because why did they choose Portugal to bring in ascended masters that were sitting around Yeshua in this beautiful circle and gathering? So ascended masters from all over are probably bilocating to sit around and to hold the energy, but we don't really get a sense. I don't really have a sense of what they talked about or what was up, but I think there were some big plans being discussed in Portugal. So that's one of the other places. Do you want to speak a little more about Portugal, and then I'll bring up one more place?
Portugal, to understand why Portugal, you could say, why Portugal, of all places on earth? Why this place in Scotland? So it's important. I mean, it's interesting to know the legends. Of course, nothing is written. I mean, there are no historic records of this, so I cannot hear everything. The Druids didn't write down anything. The Druids committed everything to memory, and they did it for a reason. It's not because they didn't know how to write. So there's a lot here that is not written down. It's the lore. It's the lore, and if it's in the stories, there's truth in the stories. And the story goes, there's an interesting story relating Portugal and the relationship between that area with Mount Schehallien, which is the fairy hill of the Caledonians, and this, as the sacred mountain, and how it relates to Iona, and to Rosslyn. They're all related. And let me put it this way. This point, this area, what is now the British Isles, especially the north, was part of the Hyperborea. The northern region of Atlantis was the northern region of Atlantis, and some of the survivors stayed there, and they held the frequencies high. So this is a place where highly evolved beings could penetrate the crystalline grid of the earth. There are other places where there's too much density. There's too much, it's been polluted, but not here. So they say, and I cannot prove it, but they say that this was the geographical point for the descent of the Christic energy. And Iona was the geographical point for the descent of the Sulfianic energy, for the feminine and the masculine on these lands, because the field was pure enough for that.
Okay, the next place we didn't really talk too much about, it's just an overview of why we chose to go to Clava Cairns.
Clava Cairns, if you're up north here and you're going to pass by them, you cannot stop. If you don't stop, I would feel bad, if we were so close and we wouldn't stop. Because there are some very interesting, there are cairns, there are mortuary buildings of the Neolithic time, aligned with these places that are aligned to the solstices, where during the solstice a ray of sunlight will penetrate a very tiny opening, into the cairn, and you wonder how could they do this? How did they know how to align this? Not only that, they are aligned to the Orion's belt in the sky, to the 3 stars of the in the same angle as the pyramids, and they are older than the pyramids, so they're worth visiting, and because they deal with death, it's a good place to sit and die to what you have to die to, to once and for all die to that which needs to be released. So. Wow. So that's pretty much if any final questions, and then we'll wrap up. So thoughts, and how excited are you?
Wow. You just blew me away. Wow.
Thank you. How about you, Pamela? Any overall thoughts? Any other questions that might have popped up?
No, it sounds very magical and mystical.
It is.
We're coming to a land that has a unicorn on their emblem. All I have to say.
It's a national animal of Scotland, is the unicorn. Can you imagine? What does that mean?
It's like, take me now. It's so funny.
I mean, to have the unicorn as a national animal, that tells you something.
It's case closed, is all I can say. We're going to close unless Laura has any final things, and we'll just, is everybody fine to share? I think we'll share audio and not the video.
Yeah. Tricia, anything you would like to say before we close?
Oh, thank you so much. It sounds so magical and beautiful, and just thinking about the fairy energy just got sort of transported me just listening about it. So thank you.
Yes, we're going to the land. I think this is the big difference. I'll just finish. The big difference is, like, Mary Magdalene is more connected into perhaps more physical spaces, but this in Scotland is connecting deeply into the forest, into the land. Our ceremonies as much as possible, we'll weave in different ceremonies connected to the land and connecting to this letting go of the old, letting go of that which has to be released. It's not just going to Scotland and seeing these things. It's part of this plan of evolution of the planet. So it's not just, when you say, Pamela, you have this call, it's bigger than just going to these places. It's bigger. It's really a deeper connection into a land that is a country that is so much around the land. There's so much energy around the magic and the witches and what we've kind of lost connection to is this really deeper connection to nature and to the spirits. And I am excited about whoever decides to come and what is going to evolve for them in their lives. So I'll pass it over to you for the last words.
No, I mean, I'm, as you may have noticed, I'm passionate about the land here and about all I discover, and I am so grateful that I was gifted with this. First of all, coming to live here because I'm in my element here. I mean, I couldn't be happier, and I mean, that is my purpose. My purpose and my mission is to try and help others to remember who they are, where they come from, their lineage, and what they're here for. And this land helps you remember.
Good.
So I hope you can all come. Thank you. All right, we're going to close off the call right now. Any kind of last minute points? Otherwise, I'm just going to.
June, I haven't heard from you, June.
Yeah, we have. Sitting there over on the side, I'm so used to having June around. I think we think kind of as a single.
As a tandem, both together.
I think June is an artist, by the way, so eco art, I'm sure, will be interesting for June to think about. But yeah, June, last thoughts.
I, like the rest of you, am absolutely blown away by your explanation of each place. My heart hears so closely what you're saying, and I now yearn.
Good. I'm so happy.
I know about 5 people that just hear me like that, and it's just. I know that their heart will yearn the same. I have been following and knew that I was following the path of the priestesses, even though I believe I'm a fairy. And in my next life, I'm a fairy again. But the priestesses, and to hear your words on the priestesses, because that's where I'm going. And so to hear all of this is just. So I sit here and you see my head shaking and I'm going, that's why this happened. That's why that happened. Oh, that's why I had to do this. Oh, that's why Ariana dragged me to this. And each time, it's just, what can I say?
Well, I think June was the impetus for Mary Magdalene in France, for sure. So now I might have to get even with her a little bit. And says, very good. And Susan also, for those that don't know, is a shaman and just connect the priestess. There's a beautiful Magdalene priestesses in our realm, and so it's a lot of carrying those energies around of what we bring from different locations. Like, it's not just random. I really feel like there's a calling, whether it's to Mary Magdalene pilgrimages, there's a soul group for each that comes together. And that's already been decided. That's why there's this.
Oh, yeah.
It's already decided. It isn't like just like you have to make that up. It's already, your soul has an awareness. Okay, this is really what we talked about before you came down on the planet. Like sometime 2025 in September, Scotland is going to be a part of your journey. So I will leave it at that. Thank you for showing up. We'll share this to other people. I'm grateful for your attendance today because it helps build the energy going forward, regardless of, it just helps build the energy going forward. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.